You can't poop while someone's showering because of all of the steam. And then you're actually like showering in fecal matter. And that's another line where I just feel like it's inconsiderate. Because there's that line between like I'm comfortable and this is sort of like indicative of I'm comfortable versus you're being a douche by making me shower. Like who wants to shower in peppermint oil and ass?
Remember when I accidentally kicked your hamster across the room, Kristen? I didn't mean to do it. It was an accident. It was in one of those spinny wheel balls thing in her room, and then I didn't know the hamster was in the ball, and I kicked the ball across the room.
And the fact that she kicked your gerbil or hamster feels like it's like a euphemism or like something in the beginning, like kick my gerbil, you know, like I don't know.
The favorite audition I ever had was for Orange is the New Black, where they were like, we want you to look like you're in prison, like you haven't showered for 6 days. And I was like, this is great. It was like the only audition where I literally didn't have to clean myself. I'm like, perfect.
Well, yeah. We want you to look like you smell, and if you can smell.
Yeah, we want to make you like no makeup, like as if you have breakouts or acne, accentuate them. Like they literally were like blemishes, make sure they stick out. And I was like, oh. It's just innate in the word that it has to do with fear. Like when you think of something like, and people who are enlightened or at least on a path to enlightenment, their choice is always love, not fear, which really everything is under those two umbrellas. For me, it's either, you know, love or a call for love. And those are the only two. A call for love often manifests itself as fear.
Right. I mean, it's experience fear, and you have to let yourself have it for a little bit of time, but you barely have any fear because you have something that's bigger than everything.
Correct. Yeah, I agree with that. Living in the time of coronavirus, we may not be able to control the actual virus, but we can choose to social distance. We can choose not to go outside. We can, you know, choose to work from home. Like there are ways to participate in something we don't have control over. I mean, we get this as people in recovery. Like, the most powerful thing I ever did was admit that I was powerless, but that's hard to explain to people.
Their wives aren't like chasing after them with an electric shaver.
Even my dad is in his mid 60s and is single again. And he's like, I don't know why the ladies don't like me. And I'm like, there's this, Dad. It's that there's nothing, it shouldn't look like you're wearing a turtleneck in August. I'm just saying. I don't want to tell you what to do because you're my father. But yeah, my dad's missing the boat in that. Like the definition in my abs is, it's like my 6-pack's a little bit kind of like in the back of the fridge right now. Because
you still have one though. I still have
a 6-pack. It's just in the back of the fridge.
That 6-pack was amazing. Congratulations. I've never had one. I mean, I've never had one.
Dude, my dad is like so hairy, and now his beard's completely white because he's in his like mid 60s. And during Christmas, my dad was just chilling in a chair, just chilling, reading. And like we have a lot of extended family and cousins and people who are not like my brother-in-law's side of my sister's husband's side of the family. And so not everybody knows my dad. And he's just sitting there chilling next to the Christmas tree reading. And people literally thought he was a staged Santa Claus.
That's so.
It's like he looked and we were like, he had his Santa hat on just because it was Christmas. And they thought we hired Santa. And I was like, no, that's my father. That's actually my father. That whole tradition's sort of weird. Don't you think that's kind of weird that you sit on like a strange man's lap?
It's not.
When I would watch these kids at malls, it made sense to me when they panicked. Yeah. Like this is a grown-ass, creepy stranger man with a big white beard. And you're like being asked to sit on their lap and ask them for stuff. Like that would traumatize me as well. Yeah. So like, why are we like, don't be scared. It's just Santa. I would tell my child, like, you have a great instinct. You have a great instinct because this person's great. Like, you don't even know who this is.
Yeah. I was doing some inner child work. And one of the questions was like, who growing up like was like that you could trust them. And I was just like, oh, nobody. Like nobody.
So when I think of somebody that changed my soul, that got me to like look at myself in a way that I had never looked at myself in my entire life, like I still consider her sort of a soulmate in that way, but it's hard to articulate to people because not in a like creepy she should be with me way. That's not what I mean by that.
Like social awareness thing. So he's like, I'm just curious, like, is Santa doing like deliveries on Amazon Prime? Like, is he going to be able to get on his sleigh, like ride around the world? And do all of the reindeers need to be 6 feet apart? I'm like, I don't know that the proficiency of the sleigh would work as well if the reindeers were all socially distancing. But he's like, but what about like in the North Pole, like those elves work pretty close in the factory lines. Like, do they all have to be 6 feet apart? I'm like, no, they're just going to wear masks. It'll be fine. Yeah, he fully thinks Santa's elves will be wearing masks.
I love that he's thinking about that. He's thinking ahead of time.
Yeah, and he's like, so is it rude if we, you know how like Santa Claus will like you leave out cookies? And he's like, I don't feel like that's safe. Like, how is Santa gonna know that we don't have coronavirus? And I'm like, yeah, he probably shouldn't be breaking into random people's houses when we're socially distancing. Just drop it down their chimneys.
They like make the cookies out of Purell.
Yeah.
But remember when we also didn't give certain compliments? Like, wow, I really love your face mask. Remember when that was a compliment never given ever, ever?
Yeah. Remember when you were like, oh, I saw my ex. I wish I had a better looking face mask on.
Yeah. That's how we're all going to talk.
The shaman stopped all of us in the middle of our meditation circle and just made us take the deepest. She was like, I want all of us to sit and take the deepest diaphragmatic breath and breathe in as much oxygen as we can, all sitting in a circle. And so we took these big, deep breaths and exhaled to our fullest. And then when we all came out of the meditation, she said, now, did anybody feel when you took your deepest, fullest breath that you were taking away from anybody else in the room? And I loved it. And it like changed how I approached my career and everything else I did. Like, I get to take my deepest, fullest breath and it doesn't take away from yours. Like, there is enough for all of us to take our deepest, fullest breath.
I love that. It's so good.
It really changed me.
Yeah, I love that. I'm going to keep that forever.
It's the bigger picture. It's not that somebody wants you to get away with a butt ton of heroin. That's not what it's about. But like,
I like the butt ton.
The buttload, I know.
I had friends that didn't drink and I drank. I was just like, she doesn't know how to be cool.
Yeah, she doesn't.
Or like, she's not a badass. But I'm a badass. Like, no, facing life head on is badass.
It is badass. And it's not always torturous. That's the thing. Like, I think there's this concept that we're deprived. And I'm like, I'm so much more. My life is so much more. That's like going to a child who is completely happy, joyous, and free without anything and saying they're the ones deprived. I'm like, they get to feel the fullness of life without seeking something outside of themselves in order to give them enough courage to experience the fullness of life. Like, how could I be the one deprived? Like, I have access to everything. You know what I mean? Like, that to me is amazing.
Right.
It's like, not that people can't be their authentic selves when they're drinking, but this is the way that I envision it. Tell me if you like this analogy, but I feel like it will sort of make sense. So, because some people are like, well, you know, the liquid courage, like, you really are getting my authentic self when I'm drunk. And I don't know that that's necessarily not true, but I think of it like the X-ray machine at an airport. If that X-ray machine will illuminate everything that's really in the bag. It's everything that's in the bag, right? Whereas when you're clean and sober, you don't need the X-ray machine to see everything that's in the bag. But it doesn't mean that the X-ray machine's not actually viewing what's in the bag. It's that you need this extra thing that's emitting like UV rays, and you need this false thing in order to see what's in the bag. And what if you could just get to a place where you didn't need the X-ray machine? You know what I mean? So it's like, I don't want people to think that I think every single person, now, of course there's a line, but I do think sometimes people can get to a place of authenticity even when they're in an altered state of consciousness. It's just, imagine if you didn't need it. You know, we talk about things like systemic racism, but I think there's also this systemic problem in our criminal justice system where we say innocent until proven guilty, but psychologically we believe guilty until proven innocent. You know what I mean? And our system is wired in a wonky way that sort of defaults to that in our media and everything. You know what I mean? We look for the guilt in people, not the innocence in our system.
Right. Mammogram party. Yeah.
Yeah, let's have a mammogram party. And then when I was here and I was at this event and I was and I'm like, when I'm at the point in my life where having conversations, my stories just don't involve storytelling about drinking anymore.
Right.
That just doesn't align with me. So like that it just doesn't work for me. I'm just not interested in that conversation.
Right. Right. Like we were so wasted. It was so fun. Like I wrote for 9 hours today. It was awesome.
Yeah, like I want to have that conversation. Like
right.
I meditated, and because it was like a lunar eclipse, I felt connected to source. Like I want to have those conversations.
Same. Not like I put as much as I possibly could in between me and all that is. It's like when you do a fart and someone's like, who farted? You're like, I have no idea, because they could smell it right then. But then later you're like, that was me. Like, you're not even you get smelled anymore. Like you're proud and you own it. Like that's how I feel about my drinking stories. It's like, but like when I was still drinking, I'm like, oh my God, if anybody knew what I did in Toronto.
God, that is the most hilarious analogy.
Right. If anybody knew what I did in Toronto, like Renee, you're a good person. I like it. And funny.
Thank you.
Beautiful.
You're a good person and you're funny and you're beautiful.
Tapping from the bottom.
Like whatever thing we're coming to terms with, like we need to embrace it when it makes sense for us. Because I've also known that when I proclaim something I haven't embraced yet, it comes off fake and it comes off inauthentic.
Right.
And the one thing that I promise myself to be is authentic.
Yeah.
So like
that's the most beautiful thing on the planet.
So that's why I'm like, let me process. Like I'm still
I love how I could run around right now and be like,
so enough about me, Jackie. What do you think about me? No, I'm just joking.
I don't masturbate to the moon, but I do feel like
I meditate to the moon, but maybe that's the problem. I should start masturbating to the moon.
Maybe. But I do feel sexy with the moon, I have to say.
I do. I think the moon is sexy.